Four people were gunned down in an apartment complex after a young man with a promising future throws it all away. Then, a father is gunned down in front of his family when they dropped on a family. For homicide detectives, their chance of solving a murder is cut in half if they do not get a lead within the first 48 hours. Some of the participants in this documentary are actors, and some scenes have been altered for dramatic effect. A caller called 911 around 1:20 p.m. in the city of Tulsa. 911 operator asks if she needs police, fire, or medical. The caller says she needs medical. 911 operator asks her what's going on. The caller said she doesn't know. She said she just woke up and she started hearing some noises. Then she went over to her balcony and she saw that two people that have been shot. 911 operator told her officers are on their way. When the first respondents arrived, they found four people that had been shot. Two men and a woman were rushed to the hospital. The remaining person was already dead before officers arrived at the scene of the incident. 23-year-old veteran detective Reggie Warren would lead the case. "What's going on?" an officer asked. Sergeant Brandon Watkins told him they have one person that is deceased on the side of the walk-in between the apartments. His name is Joshua Smith. 26-year-old Joshua Smith was born in Kansas City, Missouri, and moved to Tulsa in 2013. After graduating from Atlanta High, he enrolled in culinary school and planned to open a restaurant. Joshua was survived by his mother, two brothers, two sisters, and a 1-year-old daughter. Joshua was shot 8 times. Sergeant Brandon Williams said they have 3 people that have been transported to the hospital for gunshot wounds. The man that was shot in the head is 23-year-old Marco Celestine Jr. Marco and his girlfriend Raven had a child and another baby on the way. The detectives discovered several casings in the parking lot and on the sidewalks. The team also recovers 11 .40 caliber shell casings. A detective said it seems the shooting started initially in the parking lot and shot were fired and continued down to the east. While detectives Ronnie Leatherman and John Brown went out to talk to people downtown, the team canvassed the apartment complex. They got a witness to speak with them. She narrated what she knew. Detective Reggie and other detectives were not too satisfied with what they heard from her. They wanted to hear more from her, so they told her she will be more appreciated if she could come to homicide. She obliged and followed the detectives. As soon as they got to homicide, she was taken into an investigation room. Detective Ronnie was the detective that entered the interrogation room where she was being held to ask her some questions. Detective Ronnie told her to tell him everything she knows. She said she was sitting in her car watching TV, and then she heard gunshots out of nowhere. She said the gunshots were consecutive and just kept going off. She said she hit the ground. She said when the gunshot stopped, she kept on hearing the voice of a woman yelling for help. In Mobile, Alabama, a call came through to 911. 911 operators picked the call and asked the caller what her emergency was. The caller told them someone has just been shot. 911 operators asked her the location of the shooting. She kept on saying, "Stephen, baby, stay with me." The caller finally gave 911 operators her location. She said she was at Azalea and Seabreeze. 911 operators immediately transferred her over to medical. She kept saying, "I love you, Stephen, baby," while her call was transferred to the medical. A few minutes later, police and DMs responded and found a man lying on the street dead. Detective Glenn Barton asked officers if they already have the name of the victim. An officer told him that they have the victim's name and he is Stephen Fields Jr. 39-year-old Stephen Fields Jr. worked in a construction company to support his 5 children. Stephen was recently engaged and moved in with his fiancée. Stephen was shot once in the head. A single shell casing of a 9mm Luger was found next to Stephen's foot. A witness came forward to speak with detectives. The witness said showed them Stephen's fiancée. He assured detectives that the female holding a baby over there is Stephen's fiancée. The detectives approached her and she agreed to talk when she gets to homicide. Immediately they arrived at homicide. She was taken into an interrogation room for questioning. Detective Ronnie and another detective entered the interrogation room where she was been held to ask her some questions. Detective Ronnie told her he wants to know what happened. He urged her to tell him everything she knew. She said Donna called her in the morning because Donna wanted her to come to her house. She waited on Stephen to get off work because the next day was his birthday. She said she took Stephen out for dinner to celebrate his birthday. Detective Ronnie asked her if Stephen knew Donna. She said Stephen and Donna were neighbors. She said Donna moved into the house where Stephen was living with her son and his girlfriend about a month ago. She said Donna told her she just needed to talk to her for a second. She said Stephen and his son waited in the car while she went inside. When she entered, Donna told her to sit and talk to her for a second. The next thing she saw was a black guy running in the door. The black guy went to the safe that was in Donna's room. She said he told Donna he needed his gun. He said he needed to go outside. She said the black man grabbed a gun and ran out of the room. She said as he was going down the steps, she was trying to figure out what was going on. Donna ran out behind him. Detective Ronnie asked if he saw the victim get shot. She said the black guy just shot the victim in the head and the victim fell. He asked her again if she remembers what he was wearing. She said she can't tell him even one thing about him. She said she doesn't know who he was, but it sounded like he was called Smoke. Detective Ronnie asked her if she knew who called him Smoke. She said it was Donna that called him Smoke and she drove away with her son. Detective Ronnie asked her if she has any idea why anybody would shoot Stephen. She said she thinks everything that happened was a setup. She said Donna told her son in the past that Stephen owed her money. She said she was outside when she got outside. She said after she followed the gunman out of the house, she saw Donna's son lying on the street. She thinks her son and Stephen might have gotten into it and the guy got a gun and shot Stephen. At this point, Donna threatened to kill Stephen, Detective Ronnie asked. She said Donna usually threatens to kill people all the time. Just hold tight. I will be right back, Detective Ronnie said while he left the interrogation room. The detective turned to the woman who rents the apartment and who was dating Donna's son. So who stays in that apartment with you? The detective asked. She said she and her kids. Who else stays at the house? The detective asked again. Mama, she replied. What exactly do you remember about when everything went down? The detective continued with his investigation. She said when the girl knocked at the door, she asked her what she wanted. She said she opened the door. She said her old man and little skinny dude were getting into it. She said while she was at the door, she saw Stephen and a black male fighting in the street. She said Mama ran out of the house. She ran past her. She saw Stephen and the skinny dude tussling. After that, she heard a firecracker. She said the skinny black dude ran behind the back of her apartment. Back to the other murder case, detectives just learned that a witness responded to the female victim. The witness was brought to homicide for questioning. As soon as she arrived at homicide, she was taken into an interrogation room for questioning. After a series of questions and answers with Detective Ronnie, the witness was given a card that had Detective Ronnie's name and phone number on it. He told her to call him as soon as he has any information concerning the murder. Detective Leatherman visited the hospital where the surviving female victim was taken to. He requested to have chat with her before he is prepared for surgery. Detective Ronnie asked her who shot her and she said it was Caleb Young. He asked her what happened. She said she was there to visit her friend called Josh and one of Caleb's friends was there. She said she saw him on the phone and he was looking at her. She has a feeling that he was on the phone with Caleb. About 30 minutes later, Caleb popped up. Detective Ronnie asked her why he did that. She said he did that because they broke up. Detective Ronnie left the hospital room while he left the medical personnel to attend to her. Detective Ronnie called Detective Reggie immediately he left the possible. He told about Caleb Young. He wants him to look for Caleb in the database if he can get any information on him. A few minutes later, Detective Reggie found Caleb in the database. Information from the database showed that 20 years old Caleb Young has no prior convictions. The next task for the detectives is to locate Caleb and bring him for questioning. They headed out to the location they found. While driving close to the location, they spotted Caleb leaving in a car. The detectives tracked and stopped the car and transported Caleb to homicide. With a search warrant in hand, the team searches the house but they did not find any gun. While the team was carrying out an on-site investigation, the victim's dad showed up. Did your son have a girlfriend or baby ma'am out east? A detective asked him. He claims Caleb's ex-girlfriend and her new boyfriend shot up his family's house and car. Detective Ronnie said what she told them might help her son out. He asked if she will be willing to follow them. Definitely, yeah, he replied. The detectives and left with him to homicide for questioning. Detective Reggie enters the room where Caleb was been held. "How are you, brother?" he asked. "Fine," Caleb replied. Detective Reggie introduced his partner called Detective Ryden to Caleb. Detective Reggie asked him if he needed anything like water or food. He said he is good. Detective Ryden said he has 4 people shot at the moment and he doesn't know why. Back to the mobile investigation of Stephen Fields Jr., a witness has just revealed to detectives that she knows the shooter. A detective asked the witness if he can describe him. She said the suspect is 5'11", a black guy, and skinny. Smoke's wife, a detective asked. The witness said she is a white girl. He asked her how old she was. She said the information is on Facebook. The detective asked her if she can pull up her information on Facebook real quick. She said she can do it real quick. Barton finds Jamal's last known address. The detective headed to a location they know Jamal stay at. A few minutes later, they arrived at the address. When they arrived at the address, they knocked on the door. A woman showed up at the door. He told her his name is Detective Barton and he wants to know if Jamal was there. She said Jamal was not there. She said she has been trying to get in touch with him. She said she has been calling him. "Well, this is my phone number," Detective Barton said. He gave her his phone number and urged her to call him if Jamal shows up. The next day, the teen picks up Donna at her apartment complex. Detective Glenn told Donna that he just wanted to speak with her. Donna said that's fine. Detective Barton told Donna to explain what happened to them. She said someone knocked on her door. She said the people used to live down the road. She said he always come hounding. She said she asked him if he has $5 she can use for gas or she can help her buy her baby diapers. Detective Barton asked her if she told her to come over to her apartment. She said she didn't tell her. Detective Barton said he didn't buy the idea that she just showed up randomly. She said she told her she was bringing money. Donna admits Stephen owed her money. Detective Barton asked her what happened when she was talking in her room. She said somebody runs in and that was when she walked outside. She said her son was in the middle of the road. She said she thought her son was dead. Detective Barton asked her if she had talked to Stephen. She said she hollered at Stephen. I asked him what he did to her son. He said Stephen came over to her son and pushed her down. She said he was irate. He was always screaming and cussing me. She said it was in the processing of getting up after he pushed her that she heard a gunshot. Then, Stephen fell. Detective Barton asked who was with him when it happened. She said it was Jamal. He asked her where the person went from there. She said she doesn't know where the boy would have gone to. Detective Barton asked her if she has ever threatened Stephen in any way. She said no. Detective Barton asked her if she does not feel somehow that Stephen dies the day he showed up at her place. In the quadruple shooting in Tulsa, detectives have just identified a suspect. The fugitive warrant squad has just brought in the suspected shooter Caleb Young. Caleb was taken to an interrogation room and prepared for questioning. Detective Reggie and Detective Ronnie entered the interrogation room to question Caleb. Detective Reggie told Caleb that he has been talking to his dad and his dad told him that he had a plan of joining the military. Caleb said he went to take his drug test today until all this happened. Detective Reggie told Caleb that he got information that somebody shoot his dad's house up. He asked him if that was correct and he said yes. Detective Reggie asked Caleb if he was around when the house got shot. Caleb said everybody was around. He said his sisters, his mom, his stepmom, and his father were all around. Detective Reggie asked him if he knows why anybody would have shot up that house. He said it was because he broke up with his girlfriend. Detective Ronnie said he guessed she has a new boyfriend. Caleb said yes. He said her new boyfriend shot up his house. Detective Ronnie asked him if he has ever met her new boyfriend before. He said he hasn't met him. He said about a month and a half ago, they called his phone talking about how they pulled up to his house. He said his ex-girlfriend and her boyfriend threatened him just a day before his house was shot up. Detective Ronnie said something triggered him today. He said his friend called him and told him she was at the apartment complex. He asked Caleb where he was at that time. He said he was up north. Detective Ronnie asked Caleb if he drives to the apartment complex. He said when he arrived at the complex, what was in his mind. Caleb remained hesitant and didn't want to talk for a few minutes. But after the detectives mounted much pressure on him, he finally agreed that he shot him. Detective Ronnie asked Caleb where everybody was standing then. He said they were all standing by the stairs. Caleb said he spotted his ex-girlfriend and her new boyfriend and he started shooting. Detective Ronnie asked him how far away he was when the shooting started. He said he was close. Detective Ronnie asked him if he had already determined that he was going to shoot anyone he sees with his ex-girlfriend. He replied in the affirmative. Detective Ronnie told him that he said he has never seen him before. Caleb said it didn't matter to him at that time. Detective Ronnie asked Caleb if he ever thought it was a good idea that if people shot at his house, he should call the police. Caleb said he already called the police and made a complaint. He said there was nothing the police were going to do if they came back and shoot up his house. Detective Ronnie asked him if he realized that some of the people he shot are those leaving in the complex who had no idea about whatever happened between him and his ex-girlfriend and her boyfriend. Caleb said he understood that completely. Caleb said people that know him know that he gets mad if someone messes with him. He said he just got to a point where he was never going to stop. Back to the mobile murder of Stephen Fields Jr., detectives need to know if a woman named Donna ever threatened him. Donna said there was no way she could take someone's life. The detective said he was not saying she took someone's life. She quickly interjected and kept saying no, no, no. The detective told Donna to stay put and he left the interrogation room. 4 hours later, detectives got a call from a tipster who gave them the location of Jamal. They tracked him down and brought him back to homicide. As soon as they arrived at homicide, Jamal was taken into an interrogation room for questioning. Detective Ronnie and Detective Jeremy were the detectives that will interrogate Jamal. Detective Ronnie asked Jamal if he needed anything before the interrogation will commence. He said he is okay and doesn't need anything. Detective Ronnie said he doesn't want to waste Jamal's time. He said he wants Jamal to tell him about what happened yesterday. He urged Jamal to tell him everything that he knows without concealing any information. Jamal said he was fixing his radiator in front of his apartment when Donna's son returned home. He said Donna's son went in and came back outside. He said Donna's son noticed an unfamiliar car that was parked in a parking spot that was reserved only for residents. He said when Donna's son asks the guy who he was, the guy asked Donna's son if he was the dude that his mother owed money. He kept repeating to Donna's son how his mother owed him money. He said after some minutes, the guy came out of his car and he said he was going to beat Donna's son's ass. Jamal said Stephen became estranged when he was confronted about his debt to Donna and hit her son. He said the next thing he heard was a bomb sound. He said when he looked back, he saw how Stephen's head hit the ground. It bounced back and hit the ground again. Detective Ronnie followed that question with another question. He told Jamal that he wants to know what else he did. Jamal said, like what in amazement. He asked Jamal where he got the gun that he used to shoot the deceased. Jamal said he got it at the safe. Detective Ronnie asked him if Mama had already left the room. He said they were already downstairs. He said he was the last person in the house. Detective Ronnie asked him what he saw when he got out of the house. He said he walked down the steps. He saw how he and Mama wanted to fight. He said he put Mama on the ground and he was already swinging on Mama. Detective Ronnie asked him what he did when he saw him swinging Mama. Jamal said he shot him. Detective Ronnie asked for a couple of minutes and left the interrogation room. Jamal Hamilton was charged with murder and he is awaiting trial. No one else has been charged in connection with the murder of Stephen Fields Jr. Fields Jr. Fields Jr.